Quick video for you today doing some DIY closet shelving. I'll show you everything we did here with a little bit of a basement renovation. We had an empty closet and I used primarily scraps that were sitting around from this renovation to build some pretty sturdy, pretty utilitarian. You need to get organized. Let's go ahead and build some shelving. I'll show you the tools that you need and then we can take a look at the finished product.
Zoom out here a little bit, so this will be a little bit warped. But as you can see, this closet is totally empty. We're gonna add a little shelving to help with our organization. I've already got everything cut using some plywood. I've cut the shelves here, and then some 2x4s, which are gonna serve as the sides. So we're just gonna do like that. So 2x4 on either side, then we're gonna put our plywood on top. Most likely, I'm gonna need a 2x4 running in the middle like that for support, so that over time the plywood doesn't warp and bend down at all. But pretty easy job. One thing you're going to want to figure out is going to be the height between your shelves. And so what I'm doing is I'm just using a storage tote. And so for example, I want to have room to slide that down with a few inches to spare. So I'm going to come up 20 inches. So even if I get a bigger tote, that'll work. Or I could slide them in like that and probably have two down here. So 20 inches. And then my next tote can go on top, 20 more inches, I can do my next shelf. And so what that should give me is a series of shelves to really help with storage and organization. What are the tools needed for this job? We've got our screws to screw in our shelves and also to screw in our shelf supports on the wall. Drill bits to drill out before we screw. We got the drill, and then we also have the driver. And I cut the shelving with the circular saw. And then I cut the supports, the 2x4s, with the chop saw here. You also could use a circular saw for that. A little bit easier on the chop saw if you've got one of those. Not a ton of tools required. Borrow them from a friend, call somebody at church, and also the level. We're gonna need the level. Try to get these shelves mostly level. Okay, as we're building our supports for our shelves, another thing to keep in mind, make sure you're going into studs. A little bit easier for me here. This is drywall that is unfinished, so I can actually see where they screwed the drywall into the studs. So I don't even have to really use a stud finder here. But you don't want to be going just into drywall. That's not going to be enough to support unless you use some drywall anchors. So get your supports into your studs. Got the first shelf supports on the wall and then went ahead and made a very simple bracket. This is just two 2x4s cut to about 13 inches. Then I can stick my next one on here. And then since this one's level and these are the same, that should make this one pretty darn level. That's pretty good. Can you see that? So that's going to make this a little bit faster. I can secure this one to the wall, switch over to this side, do that, and then build my supports a little faster. Making some progress. Got these side supports in. Now I'm doing that little support across the middle here. I used two little chunks of 2x4 that are left over just to make it easier, since I'm doing this by myself, to secure my supports side to side. But that should give the plywood plenty of support to hold whatever ends up on the shelf. One last thing I'm adding before I put the wood down for the shelves is a support on the back. Just used a 2x4 and then found the stud along the side, which in this case was over here, and then the stud is on that side, and put two screws on either side. That's going to help if we get some heavier items on the back to keep that shelf from really warping downward. So at this point, I'll do another support there, another support there, then we can go ahead and start getting our shelves in. All right, so doing this by myself, get the flashlight in here so you can see how I'm holding these shelves is just putting, using a clamp, spare 2x4, and these are the side supports we've already made. So spare 2x4, this is just gonna hold my rear support up in there. That'll just hold it up while I'm screwing it into the wall, so that I don't have to hold it with one hand and try to find the studs with the other. All right, one last thing before I assemble the shelves. Bought some very cheap shelf liner just to wrap the plywood. I think that's gonna look a lot better long-term than just the rough bare wood. Sticky liner, so it just kind of sticks on there, and then I'll set it down on my brackets here and then screw it all down. First shelf is in. One thing to note is, given this door frame is more narrow than the size of the shelves that I have, you're gonna wanna do one at a time. So I don't have my cross brace here. and the second or the third shelf yet. Because if I did, I wouldn't be able to slide my shelf in and then orient it properly. It fits pretty snug in there, so you got to do those one at a time. So now that I got that one down and secured, screws all along the outside here, I can go ahead and put my support in and do my second shelf, and then move on to the third. All right, so we're all done here. Let's go ahead and take a look. We've got our 3 shelves, and of course this space up here is empty, so some larger items will be able to fit up top. Overall, I'm happy with how they turned out. Very sturdy, assuming, my older kids, zoom out there a little bit, assuming my older kids don't try to, climb on that, I think we should be good. If you don't think this is sturdy enough for what you're gonna put on it, put another 2x4 right here at the front. That would limit a little bit what you could slide in, so I haven't done that yet, but I could always do that later if I feel like we need a little more support. But let me know what you think. I think it turned out well. That's going to help us as we try to get organized in this basement. Is there anything that you would do differently in your closet shelves? Let me know in the comments.